Hi, we're here with Matt Savage. Matt is the executive director at the World Poker Tour. He's also the Poker TDA founder. And one thing I didn't really know, I know you should be in the Poker Hall of Fame, nine-time nominee.
Yeah,
What's
9 times me.
what's
Absolutely.
going on there? Well, I mean, you gotta slip somebody some cash or something. What's going on?
Yeah, it's always an honor just to be nominated, of course. And there's a heavy bias towards the player side of that. And now that the WSOP has gone down to just having one inductee a year, and there's the Poker Hall of Fame, it makes it more difficult, especially with all those great players turning 40 in the next year and in years going. So I know that I've bubbled it as many times as people have bubbled tournaments, and it is just an honor to be nominated as well.
No, they all say it's just an honor. I've seen those Academy Awards, but
Yeah,
you're one of the
absolutely.
most highly respected people in the industry. It's been always a pleasure to come across you when I run across you over the last 20 years. But I knew you were a blockbuster star. Lucky you. I saw that on your profile. Why didn't Emil ask you to come out and do Dead Money? You've been perfect, right?
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I haven't been a part of that. I do have my SAG card too from the movie Lucky You, so it would have been nice to draw another big royalty check like I do from Lucky You.
It would have been nice to see like as a gangster or a bad guy in a
Yeah,
Dead Money,
exactly.
right?
I could do that. I could pull that off.
I can see that. I've seen you. I need to come out and challenge you in golf, though. I got a scholarship to college
Oh,
and
nice.
I grew up playing golf, but you might be able to beat me these days. We'll have
I'm
to.
pretty bad. I just shot 90 yesterday, so I'm pretty bad right now.
Okay, let's play for money then.
Yeah.
I'm reaching out to you today because you posted some new interesting things, and our editor said, "Hey, let's talk to Matt and talk about the new TDA rules and what you got up your sleeves. Can you share more about why these came about and tell me more about the TDA?"
Yeah, the TDA has been around since 2001. I founded it with myself, with Linda Johnson, Jan Fisher, and David Lamb. And we now have a board of directors, which includes people like Jack Effel from the World Series of Poker. We have Toby Stone, just added from the EPT, Devenir Campos from the Brazilian Series of Poker, Neil Johnson from the Asian Poker Tour, along with Lloyd Fontillis, and of course, Paul Campbell from the ARIA. And it's been an organization that has been kind of my passion. I started that back in 2001 because I felt that the tournament rules were not the same everywhere you went. And I always thought that it was unfair to the players that they go from casino to casino, property to property, and have different rules wherever they went. So it became very important to me to do that, and luckily I was able to get the attention of a few tournament directors around the nation back in 2001, and now it's an international group of over 200 tournament directors and card managers that come in.
Obviously, this last World Series, and I wrote a number of articles about it, talking to some major players, longtime legends, about the use of solvers in the game. So uh, there was some question about was it enforced as much as it could have been at the venue, and it probably brought up some questions for you overall. Can you talk a bit about that and the usage? And I'm looking at the smart device use of the tables. You're covering a lot of things to make sure there is no um, issues with the language and their enforcement of these rules. Can you share a bit about that at first?
Yeah, that was already happening. It was already coming out that the use of solvers, the charts, graphs were not going to be used at the table, and we wanted a little stronger language on that about at our TDA summit, which we just had, because the game is always changing. And people are trying to learn and become better, and we're full in support of that. What we don't want is that we don't want people using them during the play of the hand, or of course at the table. And so that was the language that we came up with that was stronger about that. And I feel like maybe even stronger language will be needed in the near future. There's just such a growth of technology, as you know, and I think that there's going to be some issues that are going to become of it. And I always want to try and stay ahead of that on the TDA. So I said to the people that we were going to have a discussion about it this year, and that we will be having another discussion about it in 2 years, because who knows what's going to come up in the next couple of years. But the fact that we need to protect the game and make sure that everybody's playing the same level playing field at all times, and because of that, we just wanted that stronger language where it came to using solvers and charts.
Well, I know that some different rules were applied recently by a big platform over in Europe as far as the way the cards were dealt on the table because of what's been reported of different cameras in people's rings or cameras that they can pick up things and they can understand what the flop's going to be or the cards coming out. Can you talk a bit about that? Is that something that will be implemented in the same
Yeah,
way?
I mean, the PokerStars did go to that, and I think some of that came out of our TDA summit because we discussed some of the things that were happening, and I knew that story was going to break right at the same time the TDA summit was coming. That people had been caught doing such certain things, and like I said, it's much more prevalent in cash games than it is in tournaments. So I'm more on the tournament side of things, but of course we want to look into those protections for everybody, and so having any kind of electronic device on the table, or even maybe any device at all on the table, is something that we're looking into removing entirely. And I know that some casinos have already done so, and there will be more that will be going to that. And we had a lot of discussion, and that's the reason why the TDA rules took so long to get out this year, because a lot of different tournament directors that are on our board and the people that we talk to, we're looking for stronger language to be put in already. So the fact that we have that out there as something we, kind of ran into a backlog of getting the tournament rules out, because I was in favor of not having any phones on the table at all, not even on the rail. But I know that some of our casino partners and people that are on the board actually have online rooms that they allow people to play online poker while they're playing their live game. So it was a little bit more restrictive and unable to come to complete language on that. So like I said, we could be coming up on another TDA summit where the rules and the language is even stronger than it is now. But for now, it's no electronic devices on the table. On the rail is a different subject altogether. And I know that there are players out there that want to be using their cell phones to watch movies or, bet sports or do whatever they're doing. So we have to be real vigilant as tournament directors and operators that we aren't allowing things to happen that could destroy our game if we get out of hand. So it's not every tournament where you're going to see stuff like that happening. So they didn't want the TDA rules so restrictive that it prohibited phones at the table. And it's something that we discussed also in the TDA summit, that might be something coming down the line. But for now, it's just no using the cell phone while you're in a hand.
Yeah, you're really good about putting out and getting feedback from the players. You've been around a long time. I saw what was the kind of the most controversial or the through line for your Twitter remarks about asking them, we're thinking about doing this with cell phones. You got a lot of feedback about that.
Yeah, we got a lot of feedback, and honestly, there was more people saying no cell phones at the table than
I
anything
know.
else. It was actually incredible. I thought that would be a complete non-starter. So that's why I decided to bring it up at the TDA summit, because I actually got more support than people that were against it. So there are those that are going to say they absolutely would not ever play poker again if they couldn't use their cell phone. I don't believe that, first of all.
Me either.
That's nonsense. But people saying I need to be able to talk to my work or talk to my family if anything comes up. We were never going to restrict the phones in the room altogether, but we're just saying that if you're going to take a call or be texting, you had to do it away from the table. And
Yeah.
even that, people said they can't live with it. So, again, in 2 years we might be discussing this again, but for now, cell phones are going to be allowed at the table.
So, just go backtrack for a second. What was your first reaction? Because I've talked to Daniel and other players about what they saw. Daniel said if he was at the World Series final table of the main event, he would have immediately informed people that this was going on. Obviously, people didn't. They didn't think it. They were doing it in front of everybody. Jonathan, they didn't think it was an infraction of the rule. What was your immediate reaction when you saw this happening during
Yeah,
your?
I thought that somebody would step in and maybe say something, but apparently they didn't see it. And the fact is, they've got so much else going on, and it's the big stage and a lot of things happening around there. And laptops had always been allowed at the table in past years, so I assumed that they didn't figure out that more than that was happening. And to be honest, Jonathan Tamayo, took it to the edge of what he thought was legal. I know he didn't feel like he was doing anything nefarious, and the people that were there, coaching him, Joe McKeon and Dominic Nietzsche didn't think they were doing anything that hadn't been done in the past either. So I believe that stronger language was needed. We do have stronger language in there now. I know at the Win Championship, we even disallowed laptop use at the table during the final table of our World Championship last year, and they will again do that this year. So I think that we're heading in that direction. Obviously, it was probably a worse look than anything nefarious happening,
Right.
and I know that people that were at that table, the second place finisher, felt that he was at a disadvantage by having that happen. And we can't have people feeling like they're at a disadvantage when they're playing these big events. So I think that something will happen in the future, even at the World Series of Poker, where they are not able to use those laptops or show graphs or anything like that at the final table. I know that Jack is very, strong and confident in what they're doing going forward, and I know that something will probably come out of it. But for now, I think that what happened happened. I don't think there was any cheating going on, so
Yeah.
I'm okay with what happened. And if they make changes to that rule going forward, as we do on the World Poker Tour, I'm all in support of it.
Cool. Let's talk a bit about more about this change. I've got the article right now. We have an article on our site. People want to check it out. That Matt talks about this. Release your update. What other talk about facial coverings? Because now I've seen people with full hoodies, glasses, ski masks, and my friend Phil Locke in the cash game. It's fun in the cash game wear like a ski goggles. So all kinds of things. One guy's got a full mask on. All this. You don't even know who the guy is. In one tournament I saw. So talk a bit about your updates on that rule, facial coverings.
Yeah, I mean, it had become a problem. Obviously with masks out there, I think that it is honestly, something that's never going to change. I am in support of people wearing masks, especially if they're not feeling well. That's where I'm really in support of players wearing masks. What I don't want to see is players using masks as a weapon in the game, meaning that they're not wearing the mask until they're in a hand, because we've seen that as well. And so the rule is that you cannot be unidentifiable, and that's what my main thing is. I want people to be identifiable when they're at the table, and it's no different than when you're playing any casino game, where you can't walk into a casino wearing a full mask, for obvious reasons. You don't want people coming in there and
Yeah.
people feeling uncomfortable because people are in there like that. But in poker, it's happened more and more, and I just want to make sure that people are somewhat identifiable. So I am more in favor of what they do, like at Best Bet, where you can wear two of the three coverings, but you can't wear all of them. But I know that people even are saying that they should be allowed to wear whatever they want at the table. There are people that have certain sensitivities to hearing things, or to light sensitivity, that type of thing as well. So if you have some of those things, you have to let the tournament director or floor person know. But for as far as full facial coverings, they are not going to be allowed at most places that use TDA rules.
Well, mainly so they'd be identifiable, but as something that popped up in my first the interview for PokerORG back in January was Mr. Helmuth, and I love Phil. So, and I know you do too. So I think, but he's a lot of fun and he's one of the best players in the game. Brought up that he thought it was unfair that Ike Haxton could wear a mask.
Yeah.
Uh,
Meanwhile, Phil Helmut's doing this every time he's in that table.
I know that was the first reaction. So
So the fact that he does that as well is something that is a part of his game and his arsenal, right? Is covering his face.
for
So
sure.
it was interesting that did that. Yeah, I do love Phil. Phil's a good friend of mine. So
What
I'm
do you
happy
think
that he's looked into it. But I know that Ike is not wearing it to as a
advantage?
defense to what something he's showing. He's one of the best players in the world. So the fact that he's out there doing that, I know that it's something that he feels very strongly about. He's very made opinions and said that he's actually happy that it makes people upset. Where I'm not a huge fan of that strategy, but I understand that people do wear masks for medical reasons. So I don't think that's ever going to be out of the game entirely.
Yeah, I think I could do okay with or without the mask.
Yeah.
I think that was the bottom line. Well, then now we're going to the next topic of covering, and Phil's worn these, and a lot of players do. Obviously, the famous Raymer glasses in the WSOP event, sunglasses. So these days, sunglasses you can actually, you can have the Meta sunglasses of Ray-Ban where they could record and hear things and AI and all that. Are sunglasses still totally allowed?
Yeah, we don't allow the ones that are the Google Glass or the ones with recording devices to be allowed at the table anymore. We have caught those people using those. I don't think they're using them for cheating reasons, but I do feel like people sometimes maybe want to record a hand or something like that.
Right.
So they generally have a light that comes on, but yeah, we are against using those at the table. It is an electronic device. It is in our rules already in the TDA that you cannot use electronic devices like that at the table unless pre-approved. So there are people that are, the vloggers, and they are a very important part of our ecosystem
Sure.
in the poker world. And they created a lot of great content. Brad Owen, one of the best in the world at doing so, is one of our ambassadors for the World Poker Tour. So we would never want to stop it entirely, but I know that our partner casinos, certain ones have rules where it's not allowed whatsoever, and some allow it. So as long as it's pre-approved. Uh, I am not in the industry to block that type of thing because I do think it's important. But I do think that it does need to be known what they're up to, what they're watching, what's going out to media. And I do not want, of course, anybody doing anything that could lead to a potential cheating situation. So, I'm very nervous about headphone use myself because I know the headphones can be used, in a negative way as well by somebody across the table using voice to text, right? And that could happen as well. So I'm very cognizant of the rules and the way that the industry and technology is changing the game every single day. And so again, there may be a time where headphones are not allowed at the table, but for right now, we are not at that stage.
Yeah, you'll find the Houston Curtis interview that's coming out. I didn't had no clue that he said if you have a receiver and you have a phone and you put an analyzer on your phone and you can put it on the table just for a few seconds, it'll pick up all the information of the cards that are coming out and feed it to the user. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's if they have that certain deck with the RFID or
RFI,
something.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So, Rule 71, rule enforcement clarification. Can you review that for us? I'm looking at the article we posted for you. A little bit about Rule 71 and rule enforcement clarification. Can you go over that?
Which is Rule 71? I'm not sure which Rule 71 is.
Rule enforcement options include but are not limited to verbal warnings or more. The rule referred to the new language on smart device use has been expanded and clarified. The Rule 71, the final rule in the TDA 24 TDA rule set reads as follows. But the penalties people could receive, I guess.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah. Penalties up and including disqualification if we feel something is done nefariously. And there's ways of finding that stuff out, but a lot of that has to do with the way the cards are being pitched off the deck. So when we eliminate the cell phone or the electronic device or anything on the table that maybe could pick up that kind of signal, I think we're going to take care of a lot of that potential issue. But again, it's a lot different when you're playing in a cash game versus a tournament in this respect because that information is not as valuable when you're playing in a tournament versus a
for
cash game.
sure.
So I think that we need to, again, revisit this in our next TDA summit. But as for now, I'm comfortable with the new rule that no devices are going to be allowed on the table.
Yeah, it says the enforcement options include not limited to verbal warnings, one or more missed hand or missed round penalties, and disqualification. For missed rounds, the offender will miss one hand for every player, including him or her, at the table when the penalty is given, multiplied by the number of penalty rounds. Repeat infractions are subject to escalating penalties. Players away from the table or on penalty may be anteed or blinded out of a tournament.
Yeah, so that's basically our penalty rule for everything across the board,
Exactly. Okay.
not necessarily just for cell phone use or anything like that. So yeah, I mean that is our penalty rule. It's been that way for some time now. So I'm happy with the way that rule reads right now because we have given penalties in multiples of rounds for certain infractions in the past, and yeah, I mean especially the abuse one is the one that I mostly use that for. I've been, like I said, very lucky in my career to not have anything too out of hand happen or too out of line happen. But I definitely have given a 2 round penalty before.
Okay. Well, I think one of the last things, unless I'm missing something on the new rules that you want to share, the big blind ante. Can you share the changes there or the
Yeah,
clarification?
so it's basically it's ante first versus big blind first, and I was always in the camp of ante first, meaning that if you have less than a full big blind when you get to your, the ante would come first before the big blind. And in years past, I stuck with that on the World Poker Tour, the WSOP, the EPT, the BSOP, all went to doing the blind first, meaning that your blind counted against everybody else that you were playing with in the tournament. Meaning, if you had one chip, you could win one chip from everybody in there. If you went ante first, the ante would go in first. The only thing you could win back was your ante. I was always in support of that because I felt like when you're out of the blind, you could win the entire ante without putting any extra additional chips into the pot. And now you can win it both ways. So it's a little bit unfair, in my opinion. But in the interest of standardization, I feel like since the other big companies were doing that, that it was better for all of us to do it the same way. And there are still some people that really feel strongly against it. But for the most part, as the TDA has done with many other things, if everybody can live with it and make the change in the interest of standardization, that's what I'm after. And I think that we've achieved that with being big blind first. There's not many people out there that are still doing ante first. And if they are, we will try and discuss that with them individually to try and get them to go with the TDA standard rule of that.
Is there anything else that pops up in day to day tournament directing on the tour with you around the world that people sometimes need clarification for? That's something important for you to address in the future? Can
Yeah, I
you?
mean, we just had one that Patrick Leonard just came up with a couple days ago, where he said if somebody is under the gun and they're first to act, and they say, "I check raise you," okay, and now there's another player behind. What is his? What is the option that this guy has? So we have a rule number 59, which is conditional statements on the TDA, and basically it says that we can hold you to whatever you say. So if I say I check raise you, Craig, next thing you bet, I must now raise. Okay. So it is a conditional statement of what you've said. You are held to that standard and you will be forced to raise if and the other player does in fact bet. So now there was a lot of consternation, a lot of confusion amongst people and professional players. This rule has been around for a long time that
Right.
are saying that it's unfair. So now this guy gets all the control over the pot. If he has a very strong hand or the nuts or whatever, he can now say, okay, well, I raised super big and force this guy to go all in because of it. And yeah, I'm saying that that is the way the rule is written. It is a conditional statement, and a player is in fact forced to do that. And so, because of that, you need to be careful what you say. I don't want people saying I check raise you, using it as an angle to try and get that player not to now bet. So it is a way and a deterrent to get people to stop doing that. And I feel like it's important that that rule maintains its credibility and maintains its current language in it. So I know that we will be discussing it again at the next TDA summit because there is a lot of people that feel like that is too harsh of a rule. But the rule does say that you may be forced to do that and you may be penalized as well. So I'm counting on tournament directors to use it not as a protection from angles and not as a way to have the other player now use it to angle the player that said something like that incorrectly.
Oh, that's interesting to know. So a couple more things before we wrap up. What's the most? I was always curious. You've always been such a gentleman and highly respected in the game, and you will get Hall of Fame eventually.
Thanks, Greg.
So we'll have maybe we'll do a protest next year. So let's gather up some of the superstars. So what's the most rewarding thing? You've been around a long time. Rewarding part of your job in general.
Definitely the fact that I'm able to travel, see the world, meet so many interesting people. I've, been very fortunate in my career to not only be able to travel and see the world, but have my wife and sometimes my family go with me and do those things. I generally build a day in before and after each event to try and see the area that we're going to. But the World Poker Tour has obviously become a very global company recently and over the last few years. So I have been able to travel, see the world, and enjoy that. And so many people that I've met in poker, you hear, horror stories of their degenerates and gamblers. But to me, the people that I've met and have become friends and acquaintances and players that I've met around the world has just enriched my life so much. I've been very fortunate to have the respect of my peers and of the people that I've worked with and worked for over the last 25, 30 years that I've been in this industry, that I wouldn't trade that for the world. I have really have done and seen so much and met so many great people. I think that's the most rewarding part of it, and the fact that I have the support of my wife, Marianne, and the things that she's done, and been able to be a part of those experiences has made it so much better for me.
Well, just know that you deserve it, and
Thank you, Craig. I do appreciate that.
you've garnered that respect because of your character and who you've been in the game. So I love that. Last thing, talk a bit about. I was there last year a bit and watched some of the final table of the WPT event coming up. Everybody was so excited for all the events, and a lot of players went deep. I know Andrew really well. Andrew Lichtenberger had a great match with Daniel there at the final table. Talk a bit about the upcoming events in December for World Poker Tour.
Yeah, well, first I'm going to Montreal next week or this weekend. I'm going to
Oh, cool.
Montreal, and then I'm going to Jacksonville for the best bet, and then to Seminole Hard Rock, and then our season-ending World Championship at Wynn Las Vegas. And the partnership with them and Ryan Beauregard, Ray Pulford has just been outstanding. Charlie Stone, they have done so much for us on the World Poker Tour. We feel like we've really found such a great partner. It is the one of the best poker rooms, if not the best poker room in Las Vegas, but not only Las Vegas, the world. And
Yeah.
they've done such a fantastic job. And, the players have shown up, and we are getting more and more international players every time. We have a new event this year, a $5 million free roll with gold. We're super excited about that. And a lot of people or just about 2,000 people will be eligible to get into that through a lot of different ways. And we're excited about that product that's coming up. But for me, it's the World Championship and it's
Yeah.
the WPT Prime Championship, and over 10,000 entries in that Prime last year, and over 3,800 entries in our championship last year. So looking forward to big numbers there, and hopefully, we have such a great turnout as we had in the last couple of years. That festival is just, really has become a favorite of many of the people in the industry, and we like to do a lot for the players. I always say that we are the player-friendly tour, and we did a lot for the media last year. I don't know if you were able to come out there and be a part of that. We had a nice, fantastic dinner, a great player party that we're going to have again this year, and I just think that it's something that it's kind of our way for the World Poker to give back to the community and the people that have supported us for 22 seasons now. And I just think that for me, I respect those players so much. I always want to make it such a great season-ending championship, and I think we will again this year at Wynn Las Vegas.
Well, thank you for your time, Matt Savage. I
Thank you, Craig.
appreciate your time today.
You got it.